Well, what's the crack, everybody? How you getting on? You're all very welcome. Happy New Year to you. To Buckshot. I am, of course, Tom O'Mahony, and it is episode 169 for, well, as the Patreons will get this ad-free, it's the 7th, but it's general populace will get it on the 8th of the 1st, 2021. There you have it. Happy New Year, everybody. Shout out to the Patreons as always. A couple of new Patreons jumped on board, and we had a big old nice one live ramble on the, I think it was the 2nd, with a couple of old drinkies. A gang of the Patreons jumped on, and we had mighty crack. If you do want to see what the crack was all about, the video is up on the Patreon page now of us having the crack, having a natter, and having an owl. Do you know, let off a bit of steam, cursing and swearing back and forth to each other. We were from all over the world. I say that, but mostly we're on the island of Ireland, and Bestie was over in Canada, making it a bit more international. But, you know, we were a good collective of people from around the island. Anybody else is always welcome to jump on board, but thank you very much. So that's the whole jazz. If it's your first time listening, you're going, oh, what's this? Because people are getting into podcasts, something furious at the minute. Furious. Also, if in the background you can hear, because normally it's fairly well insulated where I am here, but if you can't hear lads roaring and shouting, there's a fucking plethora of boys on a building site next door to us here. Because tomorrow they shut down all building sites. All building sites throughout the country. So they are going gangbusters. Fucking scaffolding off. I don't know what they're doing. It looks manic. Whatever the Christ they're doing. So if you hear banging and roaring. Also, I've the little fella on the monitor. I'm giving you a full behind the scenes, behind the music, guys. I have the young fella on the monitor here. He's snoozing away. But at any point he'd go, hey, what the fuck? I'm ready. I'm ready for grub. So I'm just not going to stop recording. I'll just walk in. We can chat to him, see what the crack is. Like I said, the benefits of being a Patreon, it's being sound, supporting the show, and you get all the stuff ad-free as well as the videos. You get the videos of it. So if you don't want to be listening Saturday morning, you have a bit of a head in you, or you're just going, you know what, I just want to sit down and listen to some people curse at each other, talk some funny shit. That's another medium. So they're all only up there for the Patreons. There was the merch shop, as somebody bought some stuff, kids stuff, during the week. Let me know who you are. I thought it was herself upstairs buying stuff for the young fella. I was like, right. Although, at the rate he's growing, Lord save us. But, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was somebody else. So, let me know who it is. You don't have to send me a picture of your child. But if you do buy stuff for the merch shop, go ahead, send me a snap of it. I've ordered myself a lash of mugs, because I keep on breaking mugs, so I may as well fucking have a couple of more. So I bought mugs with the old logo on it. It helps support the show. Not a huge kickback. There's no Irish company doing it. It's killing me that these have to come from fucking God knows where. But there's no Irish company doing it as comprehensive. Literally, I give them the logos. They put it on everything. So, yeah, no. There's t-shirt companies, all right, that'll hold for you, but people, more so than not, people are buying fucking the logo. They're buying it on cushions and everything that isn't a t-shirt, that isn't wearable. So, it helps support the show. The Patreon is probably more beneficial to everybody. So, you'll see it in the show notes below. I realised I only listened back to it the other day because I listened back to it last night, bits and pieces of it, of the episode I did, the Swapcast with Gordo, because of what's going on in America right now. If you're listening to this like in 2022 going, what went on in America? A bunch of mad cunts that look like me stormed. Like, listen, I didn't do a ramble pod this week because I've done 2 episodes this week, and I'm setting up the gear. I'm very excited today because the whole idea was that Gordo was going to help me set up all the new computer system and all the rest of it. But sure, we're on super fucking lockdown, so I'm going to attempt it myself. I know, I can virtually hear the sighs of, not this dick cunt. He doesn't know what the fucking to be plugging in fucking what. I know, lads, I know, but I'm going to give it a go because I want to get fucking Buckshot Sideshow back up on the road. Go have a look at that on the old YouTube page if you want to see what it's all about. But now that we've gotten better gear, better internet, it should move a bit better. At least try and get 1 or 2 episodes in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, that's the crack there. But I listened back to some of it. Now I'd heard it during when I was editing. I tried to clip it as much, but I sound very breathy into the fucking thing. And the reason behind that is, in fairness, nobody's complained, which is very kind. Nobody complained, but for my ears, I was going, that's fucking annoying. What it was Gordo recorded it from his end, not me from my end. He recorded it from his end. And whatever way, I don't know, for some reason, Ecamm's live, which sounds dirty, it couldn't fucking hear my mic correctly. So I had to ramp up the mic, something serious. Now, lo and behold, the following day, when I was on their, he had a live podcast. When I was on it, I had my microphone set back to normal, and he could hear me fine. So I don't know what the setting was that night. You basically picked up my fucking teeth jingling in my head. That's how sensitive it became. So hence why. So I apologise for any of the breathiness during that one. So yeah, new gear, new me. Oh Lord, 'tis going to fucking hell in a handbasket, lads, isn't it? All you can fucking do is laugh and just, for the love of fuck, what's going on? What's going on? Well, I've tried to not talk about any of that kind of shit with the last 2 days' guests, and I think we avoided it for the majority. We avoided it for the most part and just had crack in between because we had plenty to fucking talk about. I have a lash more guests lined up. I might have, you know what? I might be doubling up. Doing 2 a week. We'll see. But for now, at least, the next couple of weeks are locked in with guests already recorded and everything. So, there you have it. Now, that's that out of the way. Moving on into today's guest. Today's guest is, in my opinion, one of the best joke writers I've ever heard. He is so technically fucking sharp. It's outrageous and very, very humorous. Well, you have to be, says you. What the fuck would you be doing being a comedian if you weren't? Well, here's the thing. He's like, he's in a league of his own. This man, egotistically, as you would be as a comedian, you go, I don't know, I write the best material for me. Colm O'Regan could write me better material than I could write for myself. That's my opinion. He's that fucking sharp. We talk about it through it. He's got 6 books out. I thought it was only 5. He's got 6 books out. I put in the show notes, if you look down below, you'll see. Look, trust me, they're going to be good. He owns the Irish Mammy franchise, we'll call it. Merch and all was back in the day. We talk about that as well in it. You know the Irish Mammy's one. Sharper than a fucking tack. He's the one you go to when you want to make stuff properly funny. So sit back, open up your ear holes, and enjoy the marvellous Colm O'Regan. The pride of Dripsy, Colm O'Regan. How are you keeping?
I'm all right, thanks very much. Yeah, there's an awful lot more people being famous in Dripsy these days now, so I'm gone way down the ladder in comparison. Like there's Jackie from the Toy Show, the snooker fella. He's from Dripsy.
Good Lord.
There's a country music singer, Mags McCarthy in America. She covered, with Dolly Parton's approval, covered on a Dolly Parton songs. She's from Dripsy, so I'm happy to just be at the level of he is, isn't he? It's just easier.
Yeah, it is a nice part of the world though. I do like Dripsy. I bought a dog there once.
You would have, yeah. There's a lot of what's the dog? You know the way all greyhounds, like they're coming from. There's very few greyhound names, like Droopy's such and such for ages.
Yes.
Like a million Droopy's Whatsits. I know because a friend of mine from Tralee, or a fellow I used to work with from Tralee, bought a share in Droopy's Priest about 20 years ago. What was the lineage of the greyhound? Like, was there a name that people would go, oh, that greyhound is?
Oh no, it wasn't a racing dog that we bought that time. It was I think it was a Yorkshire Terrier. Oh. But the guy
I thought it was a traumatized greyhound.
The thing that there's very few comedians in Ireland that, well, not very few, but I get excited about when I know I'm on a lineup with, and you would be one of the ones that I definitely get excited because you're joke writing, because your play on words, it's something slots into my brain the same way when you finally figure out a Meccano, you know, when you finally make that car out of Meccano as a child, you're like, but there's something about the way you land wordplay that gets me so excited. I don't know why it is like.
Do you think I should set up a premium line?
Yeah,
like, for comedians.
Where I'm going. Yeah,
I whisper punchlines like down the line to them, and that reminds me actually of a quick yarn. When I first moved to Dublin, and still tell you how what good old days of renting used to be like. I moved to Dublin in 2000, bought parked at Newlands Cross when it was a crossroads.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine brought me up, and we bought the Herald and then started ringing. And then I had a place like 2 hours later out in Whitehall. But one of the fellas I lived with was the kind of fella that it takes a while to realize when people are full of shit. That's growing up for me, is knowing who's full of shit. You think you're grown up, but when you think back to who you thought was cool, even when you were mid-20s, you go, oh no, I wasn't grown up then. So this is a fella I thought he's a bit of a smooth talker, as Jarlath Regan used to say when Irish people used to think that a smoothie was a fella who had a way with women. So I was like, he's on the ball. And then one day, this giant phone bill came in through the door, itemized phone bill, 15 pages. And I was so innocent. I was like, who's entering all these competitions? All these 1550 numbers. I was like, geez, that's an awful lot of entries into Sports Stadium or whatever. Whatever would have been on at the time, like premium line. Who's entering the audience competition on Winning Streak or Where in the World? Like, and so I rang Aircom or whoever they were then, whoever owned them. By the time this conversation is over, Air will have a new owner, kind of thing. I rang Aircom or Telecom Éireann even, and the fella on the other line was like, "Do you want me to ring one of them to see what they are?" And I was like, "Yeah, go on." So, and then he was back like slightly longer than he needed to be later, going, "Yeah, it's a sex line." I was thinking that, like, what a great way it would be of like getting a sex line for free is that you'd ring one briefly, query the number, then get the Aircom fella to ring it for you and then tell you what was going on. You're like, yeah, she wants to know what you're wearing. Oh, Jesus, tell her I'm in a jumper, like, that kind of thing. So, but anyway, so maybe I'll set up a sex line whispering. Thanks very much for that lovely intro. Yeah, for punchlines.
Because it would seem the only place we seem to run into each other was your comedy club, the Patriots Inn.
Yeah.
Even though, like I remember you described, I just moved to Dublin as well, and you gave me a gig there or whatever, and you said, "Well, I said I'm living in my head. I was going, I've moved to Dublin. I'm groundbreaking." And I said it to you. I was like, "I'm in Inchicore," and you were like, "Yes, you're in Inchicore. You're a culture who just moved up." With one eye on the N7. This is where this is your Ellis Island, Tom. This is where you.
Yeah, and you spent all of your journey up worrying about parking. I know you thought maybe you could get a place outside Cleary's. The way like culties who arrive to Dublin for a big match.
Yeah,
and they're just fuming about the parking, wondering why they can't park like at the Hogan stand, like throw it up on the sideline. Yeah, that's how long ago was that? Your first gig in Jokes?
God, it must be nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah, because In Jokes was due to be 10 years old in September.
Was it?
Yeah, 2010. I started. It was one of my projects after I quit my job. I said, I'm going to classic style. How do I get more?
Oh yeah.
How do I get more stage time? Set up a club. Who will book me? Well, I will.
Thanks very much.
Who will give that fucker 5 minutes? That fucker. And so it was one of my projects, and it worked out all right. I feel like a gig like In Jokes will be the last one to start off. Like, I need everybody to think they have 3 vaccines, that they've got the Oxford one, the Pfizer one, and the Chinese one, like, before people will be comfortable in the sweaty room, It's not even about whether you'd be safe, it's whether you'd be comfortable to just sit next to a stranger who's sweating.
Well, in fairness, you described the night to me very well. You nailed it. Like, your description was, don't worry, Tom, they're well-educated cultures. That's what you described it. And it was, and everybody was a quantity surveyor. Do you know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like LinkedIn. Like, you ask people what they do, and there'll be dubs there as well too. There'll there'll be the local dubs, and then there'll be a fella who gets lost on his way back from the Jacks going, the fuck is this? But then they're the ones often with the best heckles, because I always find the city people have the best timing.
Yeah.
It's part of my theory of, it's like when Johnny Giles and Eamon Dunphy talk about street football.
Yeah.
You know, like being able to operate in a tight space. I think it's the same with like city humor. It's just like that. Like it's just because you have more people to be competing with.
Okay, right.
Space,
so the greater space we have as rural people, like the way that...
Yeah, we tell good stories, but we will fucking take ages. You know?
Because I remember the speed. I mean, you're doing yourself a bit of an injustice, because the speed, your speed, I remember, was displayed beautifully one evening. It was in Jokes in the Patriots Inn, for when it does come back, listeners. Yeah. It is one of the top ones. But there was a chap in the audience. I remember he was by the bar, and you had gone around and you'd done your hosting and what, and you came across a guy who happened to be a fucking professional climber of all things, or something.
Yeah.
And the break happened, and you came back, and I don't know, had you crowbarred him into another, but you seem to have fabricated this brand new bit dedicated to this guy who was a professional climber. I remember thinking, he's a fucking magician. How?
Well, sometimes with those, it's like the dream is where you concoct a world based on somebody in the audience, where they're the star of this little play you've kind of written for them, and you're not taking the piss. Do you know what I mean? And you have two other characters, and then you call back to so and so. You see Neil Delamere do this a lot, where it's like bit, and then you just reach out, grab the doctor he spoke to a quarter of an hour ago, and throw him in as well, or her in. Sorry, I was saying before we came on, like the way we clear our throats for these things. Like before a Zoom call with some Silicon Valley company, like there's a lot of people clearing their throat like their father would, like on before going out milking the cows. Walk out of it. And you just want to make sure that because you need to be all smooth for the call, and you're just going. And that's just the women, like, because you can't do it before a live gig. If you don't get your throat a live gig, you kind of just going to have to go get on. Whereas in this, you can switch off your mic and then clear your throat.
What will be the evolution when we all rotate back to the real world after spending a year in this environment? Like, will there be moments where you can actually hold your hand up in front of somebody's face now to quieten them? Or
I know, yeah. I mean, well, even you. I think we'll put our hand on the mic and think nobody can hear us. You go, what the fuck is going on? And or just turn around or leave the stage. Very visibly leave, like in a gig where you're talking to, say you're doing MCing work with somebody in the audience, and while they're talking, you've just gone off and done something else. You're there like typing. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of readjustment. Sorry about my phone there. That was
that's all right.
I'll have to check that.
That was actually perfectly timed. That was perfectly timed, actually, because it sounded like you had. Did he just put in a sound effect as well to reiterate his point of what he was talking about?
Well, when you're as popular as I am, you get a lot of notifications.
I understand.
Hold on, let me put on Do Not Disturb enabled.
Because I did hit that rich vein one night, and it was in fucking Patriots Inn, because they were such a receptive audience, and you taught them how to be over so many years, because that is a big thing. Audiences knowing their role too. And I remember it was a glorious night. I was hosting for you, and it seemed like the 20 people within my proximity, everybody was in on the gag. You know what I mean? It was and there was an act on that night that hadn't gone great for him, and his ego took over the situation, and they, without me having to go back on the stage, that group, that audience within the 20, they all put him to bed, like, and just went, you're done here now. Thank you very much. Bring up the other guy.
Comedy education, and it's not, and that's not patronizing. It's just
no.
People when they're at the rhythm of it, because in the room, because In Jokes it's not a gimme. It's a pub room. It's a pub lounge that has a few kind of gaps. Like, so there's an open entrance out to the other area, the lounge, and some people are next to the stage, so you can see them. This is why I always tell people playing In Jokes just to be aware that people can see the people next to you as well too, and to just try and invite them in a little bit, because sometimes people take their cues from the audience's faces that they can see. So the perfect scenario is that you can't see anyone's face, because otherwise you take your cue from them. So I always think that try and keep the faces that people can see happy or involved. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if they've got a weird look on their face, just puncture it a little bit. But then, so it is a good room and it's working. And it's just been great for me. It just keeps me honest over the last, up until March. I have to try some new stuff for them. And I see the audience where they know I'm doing new stuff. They know it hasn't gone that well. They know that I've got to do some old stuff just to get through.
Yes, yeah.
And I know they know, and they know I know they know. Like, but we get through it. Like, they know what my job is there, and the main thing is that you kind of have that there's a good across the whole night. It's been a unique experience, and they've had enough of a laugh to come back. Kind of. That's the thing, because I can't have a load of shit nights in a row there.
I know,
because they're my neighbors. They're my neighbors.
Literally, they're your neighbors.
They call them hosts crap parties. Would you go back? So yeah, really looking forward to whenever it happens back again. But yeah, it'll be. I'll want to see people. One cough, you're out. We can do one cough joke at the start.
Yes.
Of the first show back. Anyone else then, out. There's no room for them.
Because you were saying that you opened In Jokes when you decided to quit your job, because you're for what I find is you really mine, you really dig into a word or how people, or scenarios, especially like things that make us quintessentially Irish, and it's without doing the hokey stuff that other people do, the cliche thing, but. Because in my head, I was going, well, Colm is clearly an anthropologist or something, or but was it engineering you came from?
Engineering, I did, yeah. And this is the second time in 2 weeks I've talked civil engineering, because I did on my maths podcast. Come on. Lockdown project. I know we'll get to that, but Eleanor Tiernan, who also is an
civil engineer, civil as well.
She is. Because we were both, I think, going, geez, it'd be nice to be useful again, wouldn't it? Like, handy, watching all these essential key workers. Now, I have been actually over the course of this, I have got letters in order to be a key worker to do a gig, like host a thing or whatever, because it might be kind of corporate related. But deep down, you're not essential. You're like in The Walking Dead, you're going to be early enough killed off. You're going to be a joker for the light relief in series 1, but you're going to get caught taking a piss and then just get nailed by a zombie. So but yeah, civil engineer. I never practiced as an engineer. I just did it in college. I really liked it, but then I got a job in the, I don't know what they still call it, the milk round. You get a job before you leave. So I had a job waiting for me, and in computers and that kind of thing. So I never I worked on sites, but never as an engineer, only as a labourer.
Oh, how did that not happen then? Just you figured I will go with the easy option. That there's a computer job waiting for me.
Yeah, some of it was I don't know. I kind of liked you get flattered by companies as well too. Like when if somebody offers you a job, it was the first. Was it the first? I think it was the first. It was certainly the second interview I got, if you know what I mean. Because back then in 2000 was a pretty good year to be an engineer. Yeah. I remember a fella who's the bit in his interview with the people who eventually hired him. So his first interview, and like it was a bit of a laugh. Like he was having a laugh with them
Yeah.
because he was a bit of a character. But they said, "And do you have any questions for us?" And he said, "Yeah, when do I get a Jeep?" That was his question, and they just admired his moxie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but
But
like
it's,
I in job interviews and CVs and all that kind of thing, you admire the straight talkers. Like I gave a fella a job when I was in a position to hire people for the company I ended up working in, are mainly because on his CV, one of his greatest achievements was producing a ton of cheese on a night shift in a co-op. Like, and I was like, any person that can make it, like, can make a ton of anything, knows the importance of like.
I like to think that it wasn't actually a ton. It was just how he described it.
I know, yeah. I should have checked.
I made a rake of cheese.
Yeah, a fuckload. Was it a metric ton or like ton, like a load of it?
Yeah.
But it's just like, because amidst all the CVs of people who are like, I demonstrated responsibility as, interned at Bear Stearns or something like that. No, I want a fellow who can make a ton of cheese. Because then that they can be trusted with something big, and they won't get flustered. Because if you're managing like a big load of machinery, or like just something where it's like, if they mess up, then that's a ton of cheese that's gone. It's not like, well, we can tweak it and maybe we can repackage it and
exactly.
re-release it. And just, what we do is we do a soft release or whatever. No, it's a cheese. Like if there's a shoe got into the cheese by accident, then you can't sell. Well, I don't know, to the best of my knowledge. Although I remember we used to have some classes in college with lads doing food process engineering.
Yeah.
They come back from summer work, like their summer internship in, like, won't name the co-op, but one fella says, "Lads, I swear to God, if you ever work in a cheese factory, you'll never eat cheese in your life again." I always remember that. I was like, the lads will be coming in, coughing and sneezing after the weekend. But I was like, awful state. I was like, it didn't put me off cheese, like, but at least, I was aware of what can happen. But I'm sure the Irish cheese industry is beyond reproach and don't want to be jeopardizing any contracts with this conversation.
Golden Circle stuff, like it's literally the wheel of golden cheese. Like they're one of the untouchable ones, from what I know. Anyway, they're. It's actually funny. You talk about just
Tom is there. All my cheese endorsements now are in danger. I think we'll probably take this bit out. Like, turn up. I'll see Tom now turning up in like a Kilmeaden ad.
There was It's funny because I had Bernard Jackman on the podcast one time, and he was talking about how his rugby days, and he'd learned Japanese, and it was just throughout the story. And he sent me a screen grab of somebody from a major company that do make cheese. And I went, "Oh, didn't know you spoke. You're agri-based, and you spoke Japanese. Would you like to go to the World Cup with us?" It was like,
I know, yeah.
Clearly, cheese
that
is
Venn diagram, because obviously. Because then they're like, we can pay him an extra 20% and get rid of the interpreter. Like, it will save us money to send Bernard Jackman. We don't have to hire any local lad. I'm sure he can do all the translating for all of them. Like, so that's interesting, yeah.
But there's
go on, sorry. Venn diagrams of like ex-rugby player speaks Japanese and now an agri-food ambassador, like how many else in that setting, particularly in rugby, where so many of them there's so many of them coming out with like professional rugby and a business degree, and broadcasting experience, going, how do I differentiate myself? Really, it's quite difficult with all the other guys, So fair play, Bernard Jackman.
There you go. Because you have your own Venn diagram, because much like me, where you grew up and probably defined by being Cork, but is it a Kilkenny mother or Midlands?
Kilkenny mother, yeah.
Yeah,
and, Cork,
same as myself. So
father, yeah.
A man with no country when you're trying to...
Yeah. As a fella said to me on a site in London when he heard half Kilkenny, half Cork, "Oh, Jesus, that's a bad breed."
Like, we can't. You know, never to cross those two.
Yeah. He was a Kilkenny fella, actually. Yeah, he would on the Saturday half day was spent in the bookies, like,
Of
and
course,
then you'd
yeah.
kind of be minding his shovel, you know. Be the kind of fella who would be like just college boy. Where, you know,
Oh
be like,
yeah.
to be saying to you like, where did you learn how to hold a brush? And he'd be like, come on, like, I'll take that from about Kangos. I'm sure there's a number of right and wrong ways to hold a Kango, but I'm fairly sure I've got the brush nailed. Like, it turned out I was holding it backwards. But
Yeah, because you say that. I've seen some
yeah,
articles on sites where you're going, wow.
yeah. People who it never occurred to them that there was actually two ways for two different jobs to hold the brush. They're like, I want this move. You have to turn around, like, to get to push the big loads, like, you know.
Exactly. So do you think that was kind of, because I'm trying to kind of find what makes a fella from Tripsy end up being Colm O'Regan, like, and your interest in all in that, you obviously we all ended up in engineering because the country was, and the technical schools were telling us, get into construction or get into pharmaceuticals, one or the other, or possibly computers. So how?
Well, civil engineering was about the drawing. I love tech drawing.
Okay.
I loved the kind of, I possibly thought of doing architecture, but there wasn't anywhere in Cork to do it, and there was no way I was living away from home. But the money just wouldn't have had the money, and that was like in 1996 rent. Wouldn't have been able to afford it even.
Yeah, of course.
Look back in 1996 rent in the same way you'd look back on some lad who bought a house for 200 quid in Rathmines, like, you know.
Bastards.
But and then, so that was civil engineering. I suppose the main thing about kind of making the making of a comedian or the making of a storyteller or a writer would be the first thing, I suppose, is my father was, he wasn't like this big yarn spinner, but he had a way of telling a small anecdote that drew you in.
Yes.
You know, it's that understated kind of, it's the country. So that's where the country thing came from, like that kind of way of. First of all, he asked a lot of questions. Like, you watch him at work in the yard, because he wasn't a pub man, but he needed to get his information somewhere. So when he'd say, I got stuck talking, you notice that he kept asking questions. And it was also, it would be his way of haggling. Like, you'd have a fella come into the yard about hiring, you know, renting land or buying bales. And the haggling would go in the shape of, you know, what'll you take for the bales, Patsy? Come here, who's building that house? And then, like, it was just his way of buying some time. And then, like, discussion about the house.
I see what you said there, but we'll park it.
We'll go. I'm trying to think now how much was a bale in early 80s, I suppose, depending on hay. I suppose we got 70 pence anyway. There's 70 pence for a small square bale back then, you know, that kind of thing. Out of fuck's sake, Patsy. What was 70 at all? And then, did you hear who crashed the car below at the corner? And then, like, but it was the way, like, it was that kind of.
Yeah.
So that was the asking of questions, and then just general gossip. But he was also like a fella who had that. You know, there's an awful lot of frustrated scholars out in the middle of the Irish country.
Of course,
not frustrated in the sense of annoyed about it, but just, you know, he left school at 12 to farm, and, you know, got was it the primary cert? Was there a primary cert back in 1942 or whatever they had? But he was a very clever fella, loved reading, and he'd have this kind of, he would graffiti around the place if he had a spare bit of whitewash.
The original Banksy.
Beware the bored Irish farmer with whitewash left over from a pillar. Like, stuff, you know, there'd be a slow, you know, slow danger, slow road sign, and then my father would write on the wall, like, extreme slow, like, you know, like, just because he left over, like, he wouldn't make the whitewash, bring it up the road and graffiti. But if he was painting the pillar, there's no way of guessing how much whitewash you need, and you can't run out.
Yeah, so and there's no way he's wasting any either.
Yeah,
so.
You can't, and so you'd have the bit left over. No, another man might just put another coat on. But and there was another time where during the hunger strikes, I didn't witness this myself because it was before my time, but a local IRA fella, the old IRA, like pre-50s IRA vintage.
The cool ones, yeah.
Hipster IRA.
They were all mods.
Exactly. They were mod enough, all right? They were mod enough. He graffitied on a wall, Tempest Fugit during the hunger strikes, which is like, I think it's Latin for time flies, or meaning like time will tell, or, you know, that kind of thing. You know, time passes. And then for no reason, my father just wrote Art Gracia Artis, art for art's sake, underneath in whitewash. Another time there was a fella who used to so I presume there are local nicknames that everybody knows, and then there are nicknames the family has for local people.
Like the Ryans of Tipperary, because there are so, and the Mahers, there's so many, they all need to be, you know, denoted by the bull,
but they'd be aware of their own nickname. But then there'd also be the third type of nickname, which is the nickname. So there's the nickname that people don't know about, that everybody calls them.
Yeah.
There's the nickname that they embrace. And then there's the nickname that your parents have for people that nobody else has, based on an in-joke that happened 30 years ago. And then you make an idiot out of yourself by calling the person by that name to their face or somewhere else. And they're like, who's that? And they're like, no one. And you don't even know their real name. You never knew their real name. But this fella, I even struggled to remember his name. My father used to get stuck talking to him so often that he used to say it was inevitable I got stuck talking to him. So then he started calling him the Inev. And his son became the young Inev. And the place where he used to get stuck talking to him was a place where your man used to lean on the walls. Do you remember when people used to lean on walls?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore. I don't know, are our lads still allowed lean on a wall now? But years ago,
there's a technique too with the straight leg arse out. Yeah.
Like the splitting of a house in half. If you split the gable of a house in half, it would go like that, and that was the shape. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
With the elbows then. Because they weren't slung over the wall.
No.
A fag somewhere in the two fists.
You could have it in the claw, like just
here,
behind the back. I haven't seen the fag behind the back in a long time.
And you see fellas who are craving a smoker still. Like I don't know. Are you at the age where you have your hands clasped behind your back yet?
I have done it.
Put them.
I found myself with my hands. It would be described in a lot of light as a very tired footballer kind of a stance, and also
not want to be done for handball, like
yeah. And I remember, like, my wife walked in, I was just looking out the window, being nosy at nothing, and she said, "You had that stance. Where did you get that stance from?" I was like, "Oh, this is my hips have taken a new shape here. My hands have nothing. I don't know what to do with my hands."
Yeah. I mean, I had theories about it. Like, first of all, there comes an age where you feel like, when you've got your hands in your jeans pockets and elbows slightly, you're like, I'm too old.
Oh, you can't do that.
You know, because the trousers that these lads would. It's also, I also think that hands in pockets was taboo. For like, it was like an idler, like a corner boy. You know, like, it's not good manners to have your hands.
Literally,
in your
take your hands out of your pockets. You'll dirty your face when you fall.
And it's the kind of, you know, fellas who hang around at the corner, look at him there with his fucking hands in his pockets, which is also a line from one of the greatest videos ever made certainly by lads in your neck of the woods, the infamous rally drivers. Can't remember their name, but they're driving up towards the corner. There's a marshal at the corner. And it's like, look him down with his hands in his pockets, give him something to fucking do, sir. And then they're just going to drive really close to him. And also one of the greatest videos never to go viral is the fella out of Danger Farm. It just deserves millions of views, and I keep on retweeting it. Nobody ever bites, where he mixes Too Fast, Too Furious with that footage.
Oh my God, yeah.
Curse the Jesus Christ. And then it's the one where like he goes off a bridge, grabs your one in midair, lands in one of it's maybe in the Fast and Furious, maybe the first one. Like it's old enough that
That's an old. I think that's the
The
first
Rock
one.
is in there, so, like it's Vin Diesel in his pomp or whatever, but it's expertly mixed. And but anyway, so hands in pockets, right? Not a thing. And then hand behind back, and then the it's hard to show the clasp of the fag curled in here in the claw.
Yeah.
And this fella was leaning against, getting back to your man, leaning against the wall, the Nev. And my father one day graffitied a Nev on the wall, like where, and then for 10 years afterwards, until the day he died or went into a home, he was leaning against a wall with his own name on it. And he never knew.
Oh, I love that your father had in jokes before you had in jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Yeah. And then so that was definitely a bit of development from him. My mother was a teacher, so I definitely was always into the English. And then going to school in Deer Park, which is the top of Friars Walk in Cork City, and near Ballyphehane. So it's kind of the equivalent of Inchicore, Drimna in Cork, maybe a little bit less hardcore.
Yeah.
And because Cork is very different, of course, because heroin was kept out of Cork by people who only wanted E.
Yeah.
Because they thought heroin would ruin the place. One crime family, and since they've gone, I think heroin has come in. So I went to school there, and that's just, and we're talking about with the getting back to the speed of operation.
Yeah.
You have to be quicker. You just have to be quicker. Like because it's there's less time. People who have like a small farmer's existence, you're not meeting as many people.
Yeah.
And as a young lad, you're just not doing that hanging around. You're not in training. Whereas if you grow up in the city, you're out playing on the green every day. You're just learning from the age of 4 how to slag, how to take a slagging, how to recover from a slagging, how to wait your time, how to top a joke, all that kind of thing. All the comebacks, the speed of thought, and that's where I kind of picked that up. And first couple of years, I did a lot of listening.
You're right.
I was like obviously a SWAT because my mother wanted us all well educated, but beyond that, just kind of kept it handy. Wasn't particularly bullied. Just there was times where you just go, yeah, I respect that slagging. That's a good one.
Yes,
your ear is listening out for timing, and you're going, no, that's good. Like I have no complaints about that. And then maybe it was that reaction that meant that people weren't like. It's not like I was laughing pathetically at them.
Yeah.
I was just like, I wasn't getting as offended maybe as I could have done. It was like when you're respecting, when you're respecting the dig, the verbal dig, you're like, maybe you don't appear as kind of vulnerable. So I didn't get too much of a doing. And and then roundabout when I got a bit taller, I was able to to lash back as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you kind of just bide your time. Especially if I was a small 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, and then there's a summer where you come back and it's like, new
uniform needed.
Yeah. And or maybe not, like, because the trousers are up to your knees. Like, are the knees still okay? Will the arse and it split? No, well then it'll do. And of course, depending on the fashion, to have your socks on show was a sign of, the way when you're in first year in secondary school, you're defined by the fact that all your uniforms are too big for you because they've been bought with growth in mind. So you look a bit pathetic, whereas you're looking at the does a particular Cork look like that kind of rangy, like it's almost like, why in the good old days of Cork hurling, why did it keep on producing wristy, skinny, skillful hurlers?
John Gardner, like
like it's that kind of Cork kind of like like that, but of course, then the rest of the country caught up and started training.
Yeah.
And then we haven't won anything since because we still think it's just like, yeah, do a bit, like, that kind of. It's like, and our Corkness thought that it would be enough, but obviously they're training their absolute holes off and all that, but there was a moment where Cork just drifted behind everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think it was because we thought you could just turn up.
Which is it's funny because any Cork person who spoke to it, they all thought there was just one man to blame. One man to blame for the whole GA fucking crashing down around us. Like, no, I'm pretty sure it's a systematic affair here now. It's not just one bloke.
In the case of Cork, like, there probably was one fella for them, and then he retired. So
I think he's found a way to making his contract tenure. He just couldn't be let go, like, or something. And it was yeah. And that's why we play. And then you branch into like you said, you've started a new podcast, but you've never been frightened of. The way, like, I speak to some comedians, and every so often they go, well, sure, you've done acting and you've done, like, but sure, yeah, it's all kind of comedy. It's all performance and creative based. Like, but you have no fear. Like, you've made radio shows that nobody has made, in fairness, the likes of where you went, Colm O'Regan Wants a Word. I love that.
Well, I suppose the first thing is, like, there's 21 of them made now, another 3 this year, and hopefully we'll get a few bob to make more. You make the first one and you don't know what it's going to be. Like, the problem with making stuff in Ireland is nobody gives you that 12 series thing.
Yeah.
Particularly in comedy, so you can't plan it out. And so it's like, it's like somebody saying, I want you to build. It would be great if we could build a housing estate. I'm not going to tell you how big it is. I'll give you money for one house. And you have to work out how many bedrooms to put into it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully, but if you put in 10 bedrooms, there's no way you'll build a whole estate of them, but you're still sending you like one 10-bedroom house and a load of flats.
Yeah.
So it's like, so the first couple were like, Colm O'Regan Wants a Word about everything. Colm O'Regan Wants a Word about everything, part 2. And then as time goes on, you kind of you start to hone it, and actually the focus gets narrower and narrower. But the best decision I made with those ones, apart from making them, was to not necessarily have me get the punchlines or the laughs.
Okay, yeah.
To let the sketches have the laughs, so that I was quite deadpan in between them.
Perfect.
Like wry,
Yeah. What the straight man does.
The tone is humorous. It's wry, but I also need to be not mad because I'm going to be talking to the expert. So as a bit of backdrop there, basically it's a radio show that goes out more or less on bank holiday Mondays and 1:30. And it's like, so they can't be too topical because you don't know when they'll air exactly.
Yeah.
And also, if they're overtaken by events, they're going to sound weird. So there's sort of a generic observation about stuff, sketches to back up a point, and an expert to give some sort of context. And they don't have to be funny. And it's like, it's sort of, so there are moments in the sketches that I'm just like, that's really funny. And that's enough to make the whole thing entertaining. So it's like, entertaining and interesting, funny and interesting. That's the plan. But in terms of what happened was with something like that, I was supposed to fill in for somebody as a presenter on radio, and I did a demo, and I did a pilot just for a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
A fairly regular show, high profile show, and then they kind of got cold feet and were like, "Oh, we don't know." Even though it totally would have been fine.
Yeah. I don't know. He's quite Cork, isn't he? He's
not famous. Like, he's not famous. Like, the problem, I think it's a thing in Ireland anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the same everywhere. But if somebody isn't famous, you worry that if they mess up, somebody will say, "Well, why didn't you get a famous person?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly.
So
yeah, Jesus.
And that's why it's hard to break in until one day. But anyway, so I'd said I felt like, well, we should give we should at least try and explore stuff with them. So then I had, a couple of productive meetings, and out of that came this. But it was a good lesson because I kind of don't blame. You can understand how people get nervous, but also you can understand why new talent rarely breaks into, like particularly in radio. In order to be from 7 until 7 on Irish radio, you have to wait for somebody to die. That is, and then it ripples up, right? And then everything moves up like one of those games where there's one box empty, and then you move one, and then you move a load of them in order to get from this box to this box. That was it.
Or like those fucking pyramid schemes that went on back in the day. Like
yeah, exactly. And I. But this has been perfect for me because in some ways, like if people hear you once a year, they think you're keeping busy. Like sometimes as a comedian, your main role is so that people at home aren't worried that you've made a big mistake.
Yeah.
If you can get enough work to keep them from worrying, as well as obviously, paying the mortgage or whatever, then that's actually quite a big, like I'd be gutted if people in Dripsy thought that Colm was after making a bags.
I know.
Not that they were jeering me, but that they were worried about me. Like I'd feel bad that I was causing them worry because it's like, oh, geez, he left a good job to do the comedy. That. Yeah.
Through the teeth.
It didn't work out. Sure. Like I feel sorry for the mother, especially. But no, enough work on air because I don't need to be famous at all. Like you look at what happens when you are, money is nice and all that. The main goal for fame is that you could sell tickets easily.
Yes,
What is the goal so that you would go to Edinburgh and spend your time browsing the bookshops like that? And have this like cast iron show that would just be 80% sold in a venue of 100 people, and then you go to this lovely city and never worry about flyering. That would be the goal. But below that level, a lot of us worry an awful lot about selling tickets. So fame is like, oh, I probably need that, don't I?
Yeah.
And I don't know, am I too old to go about it the long way? 42 now. Like I should have started when I was 22, and then I'd be, because you can make an idiot of yourself in your 20s. But
are we going to? So are you telling us we're going to have Colm O'Regan tries on your YouTube channel? Look at him react to fucking fails.
I mean, like I'd be interested in those things purely because just interested in what the stuff they're trying, but it's like it's not an art form I'd be good at because my face would be more or less the same all the way through.
And now you've hidden it with a beard as well. I can't. The beard suits you so well. I can't now remember you BB before beard. I can't.
Yeah, it suits me because I have no chin. Right? Oh, not a double chin, but a weak.
Developed a lovely chin.
I've built an extension, but it actually have completed
it's like topiary
the original design of the house. I always felt that house was missing a porch.
And you said you weren't going to be an architect.
I know, yeah.
Here we are.
Well, you need to have that at least appreciation for design if you're on site, just so you can kind of, so the poor architect doesn't get beaten up, But yeah, big nose, big forehead, big eyes, no chin. We need a beard.
Colm O'Regan's guide to
physiognomy. How do you pronounce that? Physiognomy. So I couldn't, when you look at photos, I think there's less of them now because we don't allow the shit ones to get through.
Yeah.
But you particularly look at older photos of yourself going, who's the guy with the really assholey expression? Who's the guy going like all the time?
Yeah.
Like he just looks like a knob. And
I got shocked to see a dreadful picture of me at home a couple of months back when we got the lift in whatever, because you don't see those asshole weird shite pictures of you anymore from your teenage years, because as you said, it doesn't.
Yeah.
They're not in the ether, but they are the ether of my parents' fucking dining room. I gone, oh my fucking God. And I thought that was a good idea. For years, I thought that was a great idea, that haircut.
Like Gravity X jeans or whatever. But but also I think if you, like you, for example, your current setup, it all makes sense. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't do that moustache because I don't have the chin in between to go. But it works with you, and it works. It also works with the Dewey Crowder hairstyle. You get that reference from one of the greatest shows again to not go completely famous, Justified. I love it so much. But like I don't have the confidence to commit. I'd always look like to a look. I'd always look like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Like it's like it's like if I tried a look and somebody said nothing and looked at me with a normal expression, I'd say, actually, no, you're right. Haircut.
But I didn't say anything. No, I saw it.
I leave. I go now. Look, you better get somebody else to do the job. And so for stuff like big, like for a lot of face is required. Because you look at acting and you'd go, I've done a few sketches, and I had 2 sketches in Irish Pictorial Weekly, and I kind of played a version of myself, and therefore looked kind of comfortable, but like that's all that got past Barry, because it's, it's funny if Barry Murphy liked it.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like this, because it's so funny being in a writing meeting with him and coming out going, I didn't like a single word I said in that meeting.
But he
must try harder.
He is the Tony Soprano, like when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
lovely, but he ain't.
He will let you know, and he's like, I always remember, for example, he was talking about, because we were talking about children being funny, and we both agreed that there is an age below which children have natural comic timing.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that they have balance or they can swim, they have the lack of fear without being like, not sassy isn't the word, but like performy. I don't really know what your own with your own fella, like there is. Do you ever do peekaboo with a child and their timing is perfect?
Perfect. We were only talking about this the other day.
So when they do peekaboo, you go, "Where's Ruby?" Or what's
Fionn?
Where's Fionn? Where's Fionn? Dum, dum, dum. Here I am, and it's like 1, 2. It's like
he's on the money every time.
Yeah. 3 seconds or whatever it is. Like you'd never look back in that and go, "Went too early there, Fionn." or as we'd say in Cork, flagged the joke.
Flagged it, yeah.
But then after a while, children kind of become a bit aware of the rhythm of comedy and they know what's expected of them, and so they start to maybe perform a little bit. And so Barry is somebody you'd have a great chat with about like just what's the rhythm of comedy, what are the technicals. Like he'll say like one of the funniest people in Ireland is Colm McDonald.
Yeah,
it was naturally funny. Like he was telling somebody else, he pointed at himself, pointed at me, and says, "We do funny. Colm McDonald is funny."
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And there's a difference. Like he says, Colm McDonald can point funny.
It's true.
And there's a brilliant Irish Pictorial Weekly sketch where they're all the guards, top brass are around a table, and it's about which GSOC are you, which commissioner are you, what report is this, and there's like. And Colm McDonald's the last one to arrive in, so he's the boss, and he points at John Colleary. He says, "And who are you?" GSOC. Colm goes, "GSOC. No, GSOC. GSOC. And it's just improvised. Couldn't put that into a script.
No, you couldn't. I did a pilot with him, and it literally just dropped him. And it's amazing, as you will have seen from writing stuff. It was a pilot that I myself and Richie Conroy. I don't know if you ever come across him. The great Don Conroy's son.
Oh, really? Right.
He's a very,
he'll get a hearing. He'll get
He will.
I'll give him an hour. I'll give him a meeting. I'll give the guy a meeting because of who his pa is. But after that, he's
on his own.
Yeah.
But himself and the wife, very successful script writers. But we wrote this thing, and it was based around stand-up comedy. And nothing was needed for Colm.
Yeah.
And it was just this one moment. I said, I need you to play a bit of a dickhead. He went,
yeah.
And you know the way he does that point? He's like, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just, I kept on fucking cracking up because he was doing it the exact same every time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, why? This shouldn't be funny. People should hate you. But in fact, in this brief moment, they will love you because it's just like, and he sits on the chair with his little stuff. But you're right. There's some people just got it in their veins.
Yeah. It's in the rhythm, and they're like, it's like the natural hurler, the natural footballer, the natural soccer player. It's what are they doing when they're not performing? They're still just being themselves, but they're thinking funny or whatever, and so it's always good to know what that's like, not try and force it yourself as somebody who like doesn't have that but then knows. But you kind of, what I do know is I can't replicate what the naturally funny people do, but it helps me figure out why is a thing funny.
A
lot of people say, oh, if you explain a joke it's not funny, but actually I think explaining a joke is fascinating.
It could be amazing as to why there's so many nuances to a thing.
Or why it didn't work, or when you're writing a tweet and you're going, shit, I've repeated that word.
You actually had a great tweet today that has been afflicted me for many a year. And it was about, can we have a prayer or a moment's silence or something for the amount of great tweets that were ruined by the word "if" when you meant "of."
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah.
Because the I and the O are next to each other on the keyboard, and it's a real word, so it gets accepted, and often it gets autocorrected, and you're like, oh man, it's like it's like wearing the beautiful suit, and then you come back and find the wedding photos, and your zips down.
Yeah.
Your lads hanging out like. Nobody said a word to me. Why didn't you tell me before you retweeted it? You know what I mean? And then you get all these, this perfect tweet that's ruined, and you get all these retweets, and you're like, stop it.
Yeah.
No, and they're all like, oh my god, that's so true. No,
it's not true, lads. Have a fucking read of it there.
It's wrong, and I can't delete it because you've retweeted it and it's going to look weird, and you've replied to it, and I'm going to make you feel weird because now you've replied to a deleted tweet, so I have to leave it up now. But
it's just burned on.
When I see those, I'm like, should I tell them?
I'm
early. I got up before anyone else. Should I tell them their tweet is a slight typo when maybe they'd appreciate it and then they'd want to rewrite it? Because they'll want to know that they'll want somebody to tell them one thing. And they're like, no, I can't because I don't know them well enough.
But there's almost in that it's almost a play coming from a place of concern. But that Colm O'Regan has is smart enough to realize but it's when when you write something silly.
Yeah.
Written factual. You write something silly as a comedian.
Yeah.
And then you get corrected by somebody who absolutely does not get. Like there was somebody put up a picture of this guy. It was like a meme going around. It was like this fat guy in a jersey, like a GA jersey, but he was in jeans smoking a fag, and he had a hurley. And I wrote something throwaway like, and I wouldn't mind, but this was a West Cork football game.
Yeah, yeah.
And at least 3 people went, it was actually a Cavan hurling, and you're going, oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah. And
shit. Shit.
That. Yeah. And you've ruined it.
You've ruined it now for everybody. Like, it's just...
and there was, the other version is the one where you're having a rant.
Yeah.
Somebody says, have you tried, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, no. It's like, because this is a thing. And the weird thing is, you're kind of like, oh man, this is what it's like being a woman who was just sounding off, and now there's a load of people giving solutions, and they're like, I didn't want a solution, I just wanted to vent.
Yeah.
Did you notice a question mark in my tweet? Did you notice a help wanted flag? And it's churlish, to give out back to them, but you're like, just it's fine. I don't need help. Like
Yeah.
if I want help, I'll ask for it. I don't need to be a better person after this. I'm a better person for having said it. And really, I was just hoping for the tweet to go viral, to be honest, and then become famous and not have to worry about selling tickets. So you're kind of in my fucking way. Now, can you just like it's like they're do you ever work in a market? Do you ever work a market? You know, like what are farmers markets now, but before were just the shit market, like a market of shite.
Yeah.
You know, drills.
Yeah, I've sold holly.
Christmas cards. Me in the middle with out of date orange juice, right? You know, and it's like your friend talking to you at the market saying, Jesus, are you working on the market? Fair play, it's a handy enough number. Now you're like you were, I'm trying to make money here. Like I'm trying to sell stuff. Go away, you know. So but yeah, you know. But anyway, I do like for a tweet, I love drafts now because I can write it and then go, because before you'd be like, I better tweet it out because I'd forget it. Now I can just save it and come back to it and go, okay, switch them around, you know, change the clauses from that side to that side. You finish up with a strong word that has only one syllable, and that's more powerful, you know, than the way I had it.
Yeah.
But I needed to do the first draft in order to just get the information out there, work out how long it was, all that kind of thing. So even though people give out about Twitter, it is a great joke writing or observation writing.
Oh yeah, but
tool,
I mean,
you know.
There's amazing, like you with Irish Mammies, sure exploded with your Irish Mammies, and it was exactly perfect for Twitter, and it was what Twitter was, I think, was invented originally for. Was where we can
9 years ago, this last month was the first Irish Mammies tweet. Yeah,
I actually discovered I still have one of your tea towels. Do you remember we sold some of your tea towels? We bought them as merch and sold them in the shop.
And thank you for that. And it was they're good. It's good. There's good one. Like they still the dye one of them. Yeah.
Like not to quote yourself, but it was one of the good tea towels because it was gas. Do you know? People would come in and go, "Oh, gas! That's gas."
Yeah,
it was like, don't. I think it was the Good Scissors one or something.
Yes,
but then it did migrate. Eventually, it didn't stay a good tea towel. It actually became purposeful after a while. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, that's fair enough. I know some people who framed them, and I think that's fair enough. But they certainly weren't ironed when they left here. They came out of that factory, and they got put straight into packages. Because we were shipping them all. I'd say I sold, you know, a few thousand tea towels and mugs over the years, and they were all packaged here. Children came in, tea towels, merch went out the door. It just wasn't room in the house. But they're all printed in Ireland as well. I could have made a lot more money if I got them done in China. But then you'd get them back, and it'd be like, don't be using the God scissors or something.
That's what I was thinking. I was just thinking. It was like
3 years later. Yeah.
AliExpress.
And when the Irish Mammies tweet started, that was in the days of 140 characters. When if you put in a link, it took a chunk out of your available space, and if you put in a picture, so it was good training again for editing. I still write the tweets. I don't make any. I don't. There's still a couple 100,000 people following. I use it as an observational
sounding board. Tool. Like it's a great soundboard.
How to write. So like the most recent one, not a lot of people retweeted or whatever, didn't mind, because I was trying to imagine a scenario where the mammy is doing the Tesco man shopping. And a child has asked her to get condoms, like an adult child, you know, somebody living at home. Somebody who's now working from home. And none of this background's filled in. So the tweet is just like, I will not ask the Tesco man for them. I couldn't look him in the eye. You know, where are you going to use them anyway? Right? No mention of what the product is.
Let
other people fill that in.
Yeah.
And so that for me then is like, well, sometimes with them, you don't even know why you're writing them until you go, and the situation that might apply in is if somebody has moved back home because of the COVID, is working from home, and is having a snaky Tinder situation, and has no way, actually, no transport to get. And then she's like, "Mom, you wouldn't throw that," or maybe has like added them to the order
Yeah.
in the hope that they can add them to the order. Tesco man comes, meet the Tesco man at the door, snaffle them out, grab the piece of paper,
The receipt,
hope that she won't go through the money to find out why it cost €11 more than they thought. All that kind of thing. So straight away, it's like,
well, first thought into my head was, when they go, well, we didn't have that, so we replaced it with an equivalent. What would be
we didn't have courgettes.
We didn't have Durex condoms, but we have this roll of bin bags if it's any use to it.
Exactly.
Our computer can only.
I know, yeah.
Was Irish Mammies? Was that got you down the road of your first book then?
Irish Mammies was the first book.
Because that's a big way to turn your head around from somebody who, did you grow up wanting to write a book, or was it like, this has to be down on paper? This is well worth it.
It would have seemed very remote to me, the entry to writing a book, because at that point, nearly a decade ago, there weren't that many books that made the transition from Twitter. I'd written columns. At that stage, I'd been writing a column for a couple of years. So I've written a column every week now since 2009. So that's 500 or 600 words, give or take.
For the Examiner?
Yeah. Cork News, which is a free sheet before then, quite a good one actually, and then the Examiner. And only exceptions were like my wedding, when I was gone for 1 week. The editor told me she got 3 applications from people saying, "Is Colm gone? I wonder, would you take a column from me, right, for a free sheet, right?"
Yeah.
Like my father's death, my daughter's heart operation, and that was it. I think 3 columns missed over 11, nearly 12 years, and but so I was writing those. Books didn't seem like there was a way in. Didn't have an idea for a novel, and then. So I wrote a proposal with tweets, but I didn't want it to just be a list of tweets. I figured that feels dishonest. It's like they can get them for free. There needs to be value added. And so then I filled it up then with kind of cartoons and observations as this kind of anthropological observation of the Irish mammy, and made it in such a way that it doesn't apply to all of your lives, and all of it doesn't apply to your life, but maybe you recognize something. Yeah. And to be fair, over the course of writing the tweets, writing the books, you would think it's a minefield for a man to be writing about a female stereotype, and that you would get, hung with your bollocks from the 5 lamps. And very little really has come back to me saying, "Oh, it's this and it's, it's patronizing or it's a stereotype." It's like, people have the odd time, then they've maybe read it and gone, "Oh, actually, no, it's not."
Yeah.
So I wrote 3 of those books, and then I wrote Bollocksology, and then I wrote two novels, which started as the name of the village in the novel started as, in the Christmas book of Irish Mammies, I wrote a spoof bullshit lifestyle magazine thing, where it's like At Home with Pippa Ormond, but instead of Pippa Ormond, it's like an Irish mammy,
Nora Ryan,
husband, Nora Ryan, and Dennis, and they just Dennis comes in cursing like, the oil man or whatever. The kitchen telly is sitting on top of a copy of Alex Ferguson's autobiography for the reception, to get good reception, and the husband comes in going, "Whoever built these houses should be shot. The door is stuck."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if the doors get stuck unless it's pyrites, or well, actually, every apartment built between 2000 and whenever self-certification stopped, 2015, probably the doors get stuck. But since then, hopefully, maybe doors don't get stuck. But that kind of thing. So that kind of lifestyle thing. The name Kilsudgeon was written in. I came up with Kilsudgeon, and that became the village where the 2 novels are based. And so it just kind of, it didn't snowball. It just tipped away because.
Oh, that's nice. Because in my head, all of a sudden, I just thought, well, he's just turned into Stephen King now. He can't stop writing. Look at this. He's 6 or 7 books out. But that's nice, because I would love to be an author. But it's one of the few things, for some reason, And I'm that ignorant that I would give most things a go. Like I'll go,
Yeah.
well, fuck it, somebody did it. For some reason, there's a mental block on me when it comes to the idea that I don't think I could cope with writing, especially a novel. I don't think I could.
I mean, it's important to strip some of the mystique away from books and go, it's a physical, logistical product that has to be made.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and also when they print them, they have to print a certain number of them. And printing is probably one of the few industries where there's still a good, strong union and people are paid well enough, and you can't just send it off to China or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so there's, I wouldn't like, there's how, like, and there's gatekeepers. You can get it printed yourself, but it'll look like every local historian's book. You know those ones where it's like the text goes all the way to the margin.
Yeah.
And it's that typeface, like weird typeface that you only see in local historian books. And I'm like, did none of you lads ever hear of Times New Roman? Because I'm pretty sure you can print those. And, you know, there's a rake of typos. And that's no fault. It's just you have to pay it for an editor. Like, like it costs money, a fair bit of money, to make sure your book doesn't have typos. It's no reflection on anybody. It's just that you like there's a startup cost.
Yeah, of course.
Books are old industry in that they require machines to make them, and you know what I mean. So the kind of any reticence, wouldn't beat yourself up over it. Like
okay, so that's why I would never. I haven't written a book. So
yeah, but if you look at it, podcast, how do you make a podcast? You plug it in. You know what I mean? You buy a thing you can make a podcast with 100 quid's worth of equipment, and maybe €100 to rent the space.
Yeah.
The market from Podbean or Buzzsprout or whatever, and then you're up and running. Now you can self-publish books. You can self-publish books.
You can self-publish puberty
as
well.
Yeah, so all that kind of thing. But to write a book, you're still going to need to somehow type 100,000 words, and then that people will read it.
Yeah,
the market. You know what I mean? So it's completely understandable to find it hard to get to that book stage, and also you're going, it better be a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a commitment and a half. Like, yeah.
So, but publishers don't want the whole book; they want 3 chapters. But even then, you're like, I don't know. So it's completely it's very hard. I had books handed to me in that I had a Twitter account that was doing. It only had a couple of thousand people when they bought the idea, but it was the idea, and it was timing, and it was early in Twitter and early and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I got lucky, pure lucky. You know what I mean? No, I did do a good book. You still have to finish the chance when the ball comes to you. You still have to do that, right?
Yeah.
But if the cross is good, like the cross was good, it was an in-swinger of a cross from the left, you know.
Yeah.
I had the skill to finish it, but I didn't beat 11 players from my own goal line, kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, and I always say that, and very, very important. People ask me for advice, and my thing is get advice from. So 2 things: get advice from lots of different people, and then put them into your hopper.
Yeah.
And see what advice comes out at the end, right? And always, if the person giving you advice, you need to find out some basic things about them. Do their parents have money? Who's minding the children? Where are they living? Do they have good internet? Do they have, all sorts of things? You know, like who's minding the children is the most important thing you should ask of anybody when it comes to how did you become a success? Who minded the children? If they have children.
Yeah.
Where did you get the money? Because so many people, they hide that shit. Like, do you know what I mean? I will be honest and say, when I quit my job in 2010, I had saved for a rake of time. You know, I'd saved money for, enough for a year or more's mortgage, gas pay, gas and electricity. And when I left the job, they gave me a small bit of redundancy that I hadn't asked for, but they did. And that was money that took the pressure off.
Right, yeah.
It wasn't being a legend, right? It's important. This shit's important because there are legends, right?
Yeah.
But they're not as many as the likes of me who took some calculated decisions with some risk analysis. So I'm no hero when it comes to quitting the job and making a living. I had some help. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
really
yeah.
important if you're looking for. So when it comes to like, how did you get into books? I did some good stuff. I got lucky, and then and I didn't fuck up after that.
Yeah, but you nailed the shot then, like when it came to
Nailed the shot. Yeah, nailed the shot. Absolutely. But you know, and the weird thing is, as time goes on, the more you realize that the people you thought were magicians.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot going on behind that trick. And it's not a reason to go, well, I could never do that. It's just a reason not to beat yourself up and say, why am I doing that? And this isn't like me going, and now I am wise. This is me having to repeat this shit to myself every day when I'm going, why can't I make a viral video?
I know. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why am I in Derry Girls? It's like, you know, like day in, day out, you're going, why haven't I Blind Boy? Why isn't my podcast Blind Boys? Why wasn't I in Derry Girls? Why didn't I write like, you know, Joanne McNally wrote a good sketch show for RTE.
I know. Yeah.
Why didn't I write that? No, because Joanne did. You know, I was doing other stuff. You know, this is like the mantra. You're not as shit as you think you are.
That could be your self-help book that you write for everybody. You're not as shit as you think you are.
You know, so I just because you have to, otherwise you go nuts. Do you know what I mean?
But the two new books though are fun though, aren't they? Your latest book from
latest book,
and
which I happen to have lying around here, two novels, and this one and the green one's the first one, and then this is the sequel. And they're about a woman who is she finds herself co-opted onto the local tidy towns, and
brilliant.
So far so Irish mammy, all that, but then you start adding bits in, like there's stuff in there that feels so. In this book, right, she works as a carer. Like a home help, and the home help company she works for turns out are owned by the Saudis, you know, like the Saudi Arabians, and not in a sinister way. It's just like Saudis looking for ways of post-oil money, right? And what the inspiration for that was, I remember reading that the Saudis have bought up a load of places in Waterford, you know, like the big Saudi developers, and it's like Saudi Arabia, Waterford, like what's that? But then yesterday I saw a link saying the network of global finance in the care industry. I hadn't even thought of that, but it's like once you think at the start of the thing, and sometimes you find yourself projecting forward, and sometimes you're right. And I won't tell you which bits of this got the future wrong, you know. And then in this one, the tidy towns get infiltrated by the yellow vests. You've got the high vis and the yellow vests. It's in 2018. The post office is closing, and so I wrote that in 2019, and then so the far right take advantage of the post office closing to have protests through the town long before all the anti-vax weirdos happened this year. But it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Isn't that unbelievable?
I'm reading stuff in this when I read it again, going, oh geez, that I could word for word say some of the shit that's being written now. So it's like, it's like look around, see what's happening, and say, if this is like this now, what would happen if I stretched it out a bit?
Yeah.
What would it look like? You know, when you've got an image and you want to scale it this way, but you accidentally pull it just in one direction. You know, and it looks weird. Like, so what would happen if I pulled the story in that direction? But yeah, they didn't come out of nowhere. First Mammy's book came out of the Twitter account. First Mammy book sells well. Second book, they say, would you write a second book? That sold okay. Write a third book. The curve of sales. It goes like that. Fuck it, I don't know, not my fault. Then I wrote a column for the Farmers Journal, which was the basis of this. Sent in 40,000 words.
I love that.
50 columns.
I love that originated in the Farmers Journal.
The Farmers Journal.
That makes me so happy.
So when you're writing your book, start writing somewhere. See if you can get somebody to pay you, even just a small amount.
That'd be good, yeah.
You know, 20 quid, even if it was 20, I wouldn't do it for 20 quid, but you know.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But any bit of money at all, even if it's just
justifies
like subscriber or whatever, you know, that helps. Because then you feel like less, you know, am I wasting my time here?
I know, yeah.
Are they all laughing at me? up in the spare room.
But
What's the at, you know?
yeah. Good Christ.
Yeah.
Can that be bought through your website or where? Because I'm going to put a
That's
link
bought
in the show notes.
Throw it out to all the bookshops. I don't sell stuff anymore now. Just there's no room to hold stuff around or anything like that. I know I could probably sell it via something, but no. Let the book. But anyway, it's on all the bookshops. Independent bookshop if people want to give them an old whirl. Especially now, they're pretty good with, you know. Send them an email. They'll find a book for you. Send it out to you. So it's tipped away. Pandemic didn't exactly help sales, but you know, I'm sanguine enough about that. I've got my maths podcast now.
Yeah, exactly. The maths podcast for anybody who's just yearning for some numbers.
For anybody who's thinks they might like a maths podcast. But
you know what? If you make that sexy, you are the greatest salesman of all fucking time. Like that you can actually sell maths to people and go, guys, I think you might be missing a thing or two here.
Well, you know, it's mainly, I like listening to stuff about maths, but a lot of the podcasts I listen to, I feel like I'm too stupid to listen to them. So then I need to write the one that I might understand the answers. And so it comes from that. There's not a huge plan for it, but we'll see what happens. A lot of the time I've done stuff on spec, and somewhere along the line you find a surprising use for it, so that it at least washes its own face at some point.
I like that phrase.
You have to try stuff because, like, ultimately, I think I'm kind of at that level of recognition where I can take nothing for granted, and you know, just keep hustling. Hustling is fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of, yeah.
I've taken up enough of your time, Colm O'Regan. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant.
All right, Tom.
Thank you very much. Cheers, dude.
Take care. Bye-bye. I don't know why I did this at the end.
I don't know. We're thumbs up to each other. Oh, you've got a kind of fucked up thumb like me too, I see. Yeah, yours curls back that bit too much.
I saw somebody describing waving at the end of a Zoom like the way you'd stand on a pier and wave at a ship in the 18th century. New technology. So anyway, arms folded. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Fag in the claw, hand behind our backs.
Yeah, I must go away. I have a few jobs to do around the place. Yeah.
I must go away.
I have to fix a sprayer in the Haggard.
I like that you're going to go downstairs now and go, geez, I got stuck talking to that fucking Mahoney fella upstairs.
I don't know how we got talking. Yeah.
Anyway, send me on that price for the bales afterwards. That'd be great. Yeah.
We'll.
Or 70p will do you anyway.
Yeah. You'll have to collect them yourself though. The trailer is up on blocks.
That fucking dog anyway. The dog had to shoot him, so I'm going to need another dog as well. So.
Oh yeah. Sure, we'll have them ready by the time you come down anyway. Yeah.
Cheers, Colm.
All right, take care.
And my thanks again to Colm. Like I was saying, he was saying, his books And Divine handles with care. I don't know if we actually named the actual books properly, but the last two are And Divine handled with care and And Divine ready for her close-up. But there's a brilliant one in there. There's 3 from the Irish Mammies series, and there's one called Bollocksology. You'll see the full video if you want to join the Patreon revolution. Look at the link in the show notes and you'll get the full video over there. Also, there's always going to be the ad-free version. It'll help support the show. You'll be absolutely lovely. Now, go on away, boys and girls. Go handy for the weekend. Don't storm anything. I'll talk to you next week.